I'm 70 years old now, and there is a silence in my life that did not exist before. It is not the kind of silence you notice right away. It doesn't arrive loudly. It doesn't announce itself with chaos or noise. It settles in quietly, almost politely. My son died years ago, long enough that people stopped asking how I'm doing, long enough that the world expects you to have moved on. But silence does not move on, it stays. People often imagine grief as something overwhelming, something dramatic. They imagine tears that never stop, nights filled with sobbing, days that collapse under the weight of loss. That was not my experience. What followed my son's death was not noise. It was quiet, a quiet that rearranged everything. I don't talk much about how he died, not because I'm hiding it, but because with time I learned that the details matter less than what came after. What matters is what remained unsaid. Before he left, my life was busy. Busy in the way people convince themselves is meaningful. There were schedules, responsibilities, things that always felt urgent. I loved my son. I never doubted that. But love, when left unspoken, becomes something fragile. I told myself there would be time to talk, time to explain, time to say the things that felt too heavy or too emotional for an ordinary day. I believed that love didn't need to be repeated, that he already knew. That assumption was my mistake. My son was not a child when he left this world. He was already building his own life. Like many fathers, I believed my role was to stand back, to give space, to avoid interfering. I thought presence mattered more than words. I was wrong. There are moments I return to often, small ones. A phone call I kept short because I was tired. A conversation I postponed because the timing didn't feel right. A hug that ended too quickly. Nothing dramatic. Just ordinary moments that now feel unfinished. People say time heals. What time really does is clarify. It shows you which moments were harmless and which ones were quietly important. After my son died, I found myself replaying conversations, not the big ones, the small, forgettable ones, the "I'll call you later," the "we'll talk about it next time," the "I'm proud of you." That stayed in my chest instead of reaching my mouth. Silence has a strange weight. When someone leaves, their absence is loud at first, but eventually absence becomes familiar. What doesn't fade is the silence you left behind. The things you never said don't disappear. They wait. They show up in quiet rooms, in memories you didn't know were incomplete, in moments when you suddenly realize there is no longer anyone who needs to hear them. That realization changes you. For a long time, I blamed myself. I told myself I should have known better, that I should have spoken more, that I should have been braver. But at 70, blame loses its usefulness. You don't need punishment, you need understanding. I understand now that I was not cruel. I was cautious. I believed strength meant restraint. I believed emotion needed to be controlled. I was raised that way. Many of us were. We were taught that providing was love, that showing up physically was enough, that words were optional. But words are not decoration, they are bridges. Without them, people walk alone. The silence that followed my son's death did something unexpected. It slowed me down, it forced me to sit with myself, without distractions, without excuses, and in that stillness, I learned something painful. Love that is not expressed becomes regret. not because it wasn't real, but because it was never released. I wish I had told my son how much I admired the man he was becoming, not just when he succeeded, not just when things went well, but when he struggled, when he doubted himself, when he needed reassurance. I wish I had told him that my distance was never disappointment, that my quiet was not indifference, that my seriousness was not a lack of affection. Children and adults alike fill silence with meaning, and silence rarely explains itself correctly. There is a specific kind of grief that comes with losing a child. It is not louder than other griefs, but it is heavier. It carries questions that have no destination. Not why did this happen, but why didn't I say more? No one warns you about that part. They prepare you for the loss, not for the echo of conversations that never occurred. Years passed. Life continued in small, ordinary ways. But something inside me shifted. I began speaking differently, not dramatically, not emotionally excessive, just honestly. I started telling people what they meant to me while they were still alive. At first it felt awkward, unnecessary, then it felt urgent. Now it feels natural. I no longer save important words for perfect moments. There are no perfect moments, there is only now. The silence that followed my son's death taught me something no success ever did. It taught me that time is not generous. It only appears to be. Time does not warn you when it is running out. It does not signal the last conversation. It does not label the final hug. It simply moves forward. And when you realize what you've lost, it is already quiet. If you are listening to this and you still have someone you love, a child, a parent, a friend, please don't wait for clarity to arrive later. Later is unreliable. Say what matters when it matters. Not because something bad will happen, but because something always does. At 70, you don't wish for more days. You wish for more honesty in the days you already lived. I don't speak about my son to make others uncomfortable. I speak because silence already did enough damage. If this story makes you feel something, don't push it away. That feeling is asking you to speak. Call someone. Tell them you love them. Tell them you're proud. Not tomorrow. Not when things slow down. Now. The silence that followed my son's death changed me. But it doesn't have to change you the same way. You can let silence teach you without letting it take something from you. I am 70 years old. There are words I will never get to say to my son. But if you are still listening, you still can say yours. Don't let silence be the loudest thing your loved ones remember.